This time we're going to be talking about passion versus profession, because what is the difference and should there be a difference? A lot of people look at my shop and say, you must love selling watches, it seems like a fun industry to be in, and I'm sure you have a lot of interest. I have to say not really, I don't have that much interest in watches. Now I must say I can tell my this away from this, but I am not that interested in watches. While some of the designs like this one are very interesting to look at, I don't have that much of a passion for watches, it just was a good market for me to get into. And this is what I think is true about business as a whole. I think too many people are caught up on the idea of loving what you do in business. Now, if you do have a passion for the topic in question, it will help you out because, of course, you'll be happy to come in, do the work and all that kind of stuff. But I think if we're being honest here, we need to be realistic. A lot of the markets that people can get into and readily could invest in aren't going to be something which they are interested in. Whether it be watches, whether it be just starting a boring plumbing company, there's going to be a lot of stuff that you could capitalize upon, but you're not necessarily that interested in. And when I speak to my friends, they all say the same thing. Well, I could start a business in this industry, that industry, and I see that there's an opportunity here, but I'm not that interested. I'm like, this is a thing, right? People make this distinction at work. People can say, well, I work in the office, I don't like it that much, but hey, it brings the money in. But when it comes to business, oh no, I must love my business. Now, I think the real love for business should be the results that you get out of it. If I've got a business that's turning over 6 figures, I'm not that bothered whether we sell printers or whether we sell aeroplanes. It seems like a big distinction, but there's really no difference. I'm running a business to make money. I have my personal hobbies and I have my business, just like most people have their work and they have their hobbies as well. There's no difference there at all. But for some reason, when we use the word business, there seems to be this big distinction. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that you should get into something that you're going to hate, but I am saying that you should acknowledge that there doesn't necessarily have to be a big passion there for what you're selling, for what you're promoting, for what you're doing in your business. Obviously, it must align with your financial goals, your ethical goals, your business long-term and short-term goals, but if it does all those things, if it ticks all those boxes, what is the problem with selling something boring? What's the problem with doing a tried and tested business model if you know it can work? Most of the world's biggest businesses don't really do much interesting stuff. Like, if you look at the stock market, what are the biggest businesses in the world? You're looking at things like Apple, things like Google, things like Amazon. You may say that these companies are interesting and innovative, but on a deep level, are they something that you'd like to get into? Probably not for most of you. But it doesn't mean that there's not a lot of money to be made there, and it doesn't mean that somebody shouldn't have capitalized upon these industries because it was a good time. And I think now what I'm trying to say here will be getting across to a lot of you guys. You don't necessarily have to have a passion for what you do. And I think this is a big problem that most people face when they start a business. Most people follow the wrong business model and then they get into trouble later down the road. For instance, it's a common one that I see all the time. People want to start maybe a jewelry making business, that's a niche business. People want to start a wedding cake business. And I'm not saying that these businesses cannot succeed. But the thing is, a lot of people look into their interests before they look into what will realistically work. If you can find a balance between the two, that is absolutely perfect. But is that balance present, and can you make it work? If you love wedding cakes and that's what you want to make, good on you for doing that. But the question is, do you live in a remote area where nobody can buy them? Do you live in an area where there's not going to be much demand for them? And is it realistically a business that you can sustain in the long term? Because if it's not, chances are you're going to invest a lot of money into your product, into your raw materials, into your marketing, and before long you're going to have no money left because all of your business expenses have gone into your business before you've made a penny back. Now, obviously, a lot of businesses do require an upfront investment to get them off the ground, but what I'm trying to say here is you need to acknowledge whether this is a passion or an actual profession. If it's something that you know will make money sustainably and consistently, it's something worth getting into. If it's something that you're getting into without much market research that you don't know is a good market to enter, it's more of a passion. I'm not saying that you cannot monetize your passion. For instance, I love doing paintings and drawings. I do loads of painting and drawing. I could sell these paintings and drawings on Etsy or some other website, but these wouldn't necessarily become my main business because I don't do them that often and there's not really that big of a market for an unestablished artist. That's why I do things like make YouTube videos, sell watches, and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, I do love making YouTube videos, but things like watch selling, I'm not that interested in it. It's not hell, it's not awful for me, but you get what I'm trying to say here. There doesn't have to be a deep love for what you do. I think the best thing that you can do is research the market, ask yourself if you are comfortable with doing this business for 5-10 years, because if you see a big market opportunity, but you know that you're going to burn out, or you know that you're going to hate every moment, do not enter that business. But if the chance is there, if the money's there, and if the opportunity is there for the long term, why not take it? You can do your passions in your spare time. You can do your passions in 5 years when you've made enough money to go and sit on a beach. That's when you should worry about your passions. But I think in most cases, there should be that big distinction between the two. And it's not always the case, so please don't get me wrong. There's a lot of industries that can do well if you try in them, even if you're very passionate about them and there's not much of a market. For instance, if you were an artist that was successful, you may only need to sell 1 or 2 paintings a year to cover your entire costs. But you get what I'm saying here. That's a niche market. Whereas stuff like retail, e-commerce, all that kind of stuff, very, very common. Very easy business to start. And most people can do that straight away. And most people can have success with it to varying degrees. That's my point exactly. So look at where the money is. And please, if you're looking to start a business that you want to be successful, be guided by not necessarily your emotions, but more the markets and where you really think you can have success. With that being said though, thank you for watching till the end. If you enjoy this sort of video, don't forget to subscribe, and I do hope to see you again soon.